Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am here with a person that I admire, somebody that has been a Oklahoma voting rights advocate for the last 50 years, very knowledgeable about the work and has been on the grounds and been in the fields for a very long time, continuing to advocate for the least of these. And so I'm so thankful that we have with us today, talking with us today on behalf, and here I'm here on behalf of the Greater Mount Isla Social Justice Ministry to talk about essentially voting 101 is what we want to talk about today. And we're here with Mrs. Jana Harkins. Mrs. Harkins, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Josh. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share. You know, one of the things that I always say is knowledge is power, and power and knowledge are supposed to be shared. And so this gives me an opportunity to share a little bit with your viewers what I know, and maybe hopefully they will take heed and that they will pass that information on.
Great, great. And so, absolutely. And so, as we begin our conversation, of course, we want to ensure, of course, we know that there's a huge election that's coming up on November 3rd, but we want to make sure that our voters, not here, and of course, this is going to be broadcast, of course, everywhere, right? But our voters everywhere know and need to know and to be ensured, that our votes are not suppressed. We know that there's a lot of antics that are going on out there as it relates to the requirements and the likes there, registration and voter ID laws and all of those. And that varies state by state. But obviously here in Oklahoma, let's talk a little bit about voter registration. And so can you talk to us about voter registration, the deadlines that are coming up and the like?
Okay, well, voter registration, in order to be able to vote in the November 3rd election, you must be registered to vote in Oklahoma by October the 9th. That's a Friday. It's always been that way. There's a time period prescribed in law that does not change. So October the 9th is the last day that you can register. If you are 18, if you will be 18 by November 3rd, say your birthday is October 31st, you can register now, and your ballot on November 3rd will be counted. Your name will be on the voter registry if you register now before October 9th.
Okay. All right. And thank you for that. And so once you're registered by October 9th. Let's talk about there's some additional deadlines there as it relates to absentee ballots, filing or requesting an absentee ballot. And can you talk to us about absentee ballots and, essentially not necessarily the history, but what's the purpose of the absentee ballots? Because we're seeing that there's going to be a lot more absentee ballots is what we're hearing, because there's a lot more going to be a lot usage of high absentee ballots going to be a lot higher, as well as potential early voting, which we'll get to momentarily.
Right. Now, like you said, I've been around for 50 years, and I can remember in Oklahoma when you could not vote by absentee unless you were what was considered an incapacitated voter. That means that you aren't able to make it to the polls, or if you had what they considered a legitimate reason, like you're going to be working from out of state or something like that and would not be able to make it to your polling place. Fortunately, that's one of the few laws, I will say, that has been passed in Oklahoma that is good. And that is that anyone can vote by absentee. You don't have to have an excuse. There are actually 3 different absentee ballots, and we refer to them as the yellow ballot, the pink ballot, and the red ballot. The yellow ballot is for anyone. If you apply by October 27th to vote by absentee, then you will most likely receive a yellow ballot. If you request an absentee ballot because you are incapacitated, you are confined to your home, or you are the caretaker for someone who is incapacitated, you can apply on your application to get an incapacitated ballot. Now, the difference between those two ballots is that the yellow ballot pre-COVID would require that it be notarized. The pink ballot pre-COVID, you would only have to have two witnesses, two people to witness your signature. They could be your children, your adult children, your neighbors, just anyone that could actually say that that was your signature. That precluded people with disabilities and that are confined from their home from having to go to a notary. Now we're in the midst of COVID, so the Oklahoma legislature and Governor Stitt made some adjustments. And I will say, I'll throw this in, that, you know, this is in a way voter suppression. You mentioned voter suppression earlier. So now in a lot of states, and you'll hear this on TV and everything, that they, you know, you just have to put your ballot in the mail. You don't have to have it notarized. You don't have to have it witnessed. You just vote. That's not the case in Oklahoma. You actually either still have to have it notarized, or the two witnesses for incapacitated, or you can choose to include a copy of your identification papers in the ballot. You need to attach it to the affidavit envelope. That piece of identification can be your voter registration card that the election board provides to you. Doesn't cost anything. Or it can be your driver's license. It can be your Native American card. But if you, or your passport, the key is that if you include those other documents, they must have a photo, they must not be expired, and you have to make sure that you, when you make your copy, that all of those dates are able to be read. And I can tell you, we've had to throw out some ballots because the identification paper that they brought in or attached to their ballot, when they ran their copy, they cut off the dates. So that makes the ballot invalid. And it's unfortunate that, you know, that has happened. I personally know that it's happened 2 or 3 times. So I say all that to say that the best way, if you don't want to go to a notary, the best way to get your absentee ballot validated is to include and counted, is to include a copy of your voter registration card. And it doesn't require a picture, it doesn't have an expiration date, and it is the best form to put in your ballot. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know where that is. It's been so long ago, and that happens a lot. So you can contact the election board. Here for GMO members, it's Oklahoma County. The number is area code 405-713-1515. They can just call and they'll send them another copy of their voter registration card. It may look a little bit different because they're doing it on regular size paper for these, because of we're in process with an election. But you can do that, or you can go to the election board, which we know at GMO is on Lincoln Boulevard, 4205 North Lincoln. Used to be in the same building with Langston University OKC. Langston moved, you know, to Millwood, but the election board is still there on the south side of that building. So you can call or you can go by and request a new voter registration card between now and when you mail in your ballot.
All right, and thanks for that. And so you mentioned the notary piece. And I know a lot of times for notary services, there's usually a charge. Is there a charge for notaries who are notarizing ballots?
No, notaries in Oklahoma cannot charge to notarize a ballot. Now, I can tell you from experience that, I'm a big social media person, and I see people posting on social media, I'm a new notary and I'll notarize your ballot for free if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or you're independent. It's like, no, you can't. You're breaking the law.
Right.
So, you just need to, and the instructions that come with your absentee ballot, it actually states that. So I would say if you're going to a notary, especially one that you think may not have been around for a while, take that with you. And it clearly states that they cannot charge you for your absentee ballot. But Josh, I'd like to just back up just a tad
Sure.
and say that, between now and when you vote, you need to have a plan, and you need to make sure that you allow enough time to execute that plan, that your ballot gets in on time, and that it is counted. Now, I mentioned that to request an absentee ballot, you don't have to request it until the last day that you can request an absentee ballot in Oklahoma is October 27th. Now that just makes me a little bit nervous. If you wait right to the last minute and then you run around and try to get it notary or get two people to, the whole getting your ballot copies made and all of that, you're going to run out of time. So why take that risk? You need to request your absentee ballot. And yes, it is a lot more people requesting absentee ballots right now because of COVID. People just feel more safe voting by absentee. Unfortunately, we've got all of these voter suppression things going on where people are saying, oh, your ballot's not going to be counted. They're going to throw your ballot away. It's going to get lost in the mail. The mailman's going to throw it away. All of this is voter suppression. It's to build fear. It's to keep people from voting. I say, don't fall for the bamboozle. Just request your absentee ballot, protect your health, get it in, and have it done.
Great. Thank you for that. And so on the screen, you all can see, and Mrs. Harkins has already stated that the last day to register to vote is October 9th. The deadline to request an absentee ballot is 5 p.m. on October 27th. But again, absolutely agree. If that's your plan, go on and request that now. And we'll talk a little bit more about the process to request that here momentarily. And then you see the information there about early voting, which we'll get to here momentarily as well. And so, Mrs. Harkins, as we're talking through, we talked about the process as we talked about absentee ballots. So, how would one request an absentee ballot?
The best way to request an absentee ballot is to go online here at the voter portal, like you had pulled up there. You can fill out the paperwork and request it. Now, you must just copy that and send it in. You can fax it, you can take it in, or you can mail it. But you can actually fill out the form online. Oklahoma has been slow dragging. Again, I say suppressing votes. They have not gone to online voter registration. They have not gone to voting online and those type of things, which I don't agree with voting online, by the way. But I do believe that you should be able to register to vote and to request your absentee ballot online. And they've been slow dragging about that. And when I say slow dragging, I'm talking about years, decades. But if you read on the Oklahoma State Election Board website, they do say that they plan to roll these things out in 2020. Well, 2020 has been one of those years and time is running out. So I don't have much hope that that's going to happen this year. And certainly it won't happen before the November 3rd election.
Right, right. And so while we talked about it, you mentioned the Oklahoma voter portal, which we have on the screen now, and you see the website up there, very relatively easy to remember, but it is okvoterportal.okelections.us. And again, that is the Oklahoma voter portal. And so, this was Ms. Harkins, we haven't had this portal isn't that old, right, relative to when they kind of rolled it out, if you will.
Well,
Last.
they've been making changes. They've actually been making changes this week, causing little problems for some people, or anxiety. I won't say it's a problem, but an anxiety when people are trying to check to see if their ballot has been received back at the election board. But if you remember, I believe it was 4 years ago that we were actually in the fellowship hall after church on Sunday, and for a few Sundays, the Social Action Committee actually was checking people, or helping people check to see if they were registered. And I will say, even though you've voted every year for the last umpteen years, you need to go on the voter portal or call someone that has PC access and have them check it for you, and make sure that you are registered, that it shows your actual address where you live now, and that everything is in line. And then check it now to see where, if you're one of those people that are going to walk in on November 3rd and vote, you want to check the portal and make sure of your precinct location. And if you check it now, I would say check it again before you go strolling up there on Tuesday, November 3rd. And I say that again, this is COVID. You know that precinct locations are usually in churches, schools, community organizations, and some of them have fear, rightfully so, of having a lot of people in their facility and having it affect their congregations or their members or whatever. So they're saying, oh, well, we're sorry, we can't do it. And so the election board has to go out and find new places for precinct locations. So it could change. It could show that you're voting here on right today, but then come November 1st, you look and it shows a completely different place.
Great. Yeah, great. Great.
And I will caution that if you go to the wrong precinct location, they are not going to have your name in the registry. True, you can file a provisional ballot. I always say never go vote without voting either a regular ballot or a provisional ballot. But if you're at the wrong place and you vote a provisional ballot, when those are counted or when they are processed, it's not going to count because you were at the wrong place. So it is, it is of utmost importance that you check and you check again, that you not wait until 6 o'clock on Tuesday to start going to the polling place. You need to go early. So if you are at the wrong place, you have time to go to the right place.
Right, right. And so, as we're going back to that voting portal, and I've heard a lot and had to have some conversations relative to the education piece. We know last Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day, and a lot of organizations were out and about, even on our campuses as well, registering students to vote, and very happy about that. But of course, what we know is one of the advisements that they were giving is that, hey, you can register to vote online. And I had to essentially correct them to say that no, you cannot register to vote online. You can start the process, and I'm here on the portal just showing what that looks like if you answer those questions, and you can essentially begin to fill out. This is essentially the electronic version of the voter registration form, right? And
Right.
so you can go through, you could fill that out, you'll answer those questions. But once you go through it, you're not actually registered to vote online. You would actually then have to print out the form and then either take it to your county election board or mail it in as well. And of course, relative to receiving and mailing those voter registration forms, Mrs. Harkins, is it postmarked by October 9th or is it received by October 9th?
It's postmarked by October 9th. And I will say that back in the day, we would have voter registration drives, say at the clubs, at churches, just everywhere. We'd be all over the east side registering people to vote on the last night. And then we would hightail it out to the airport and go in and have them postmark it for October the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would put it in the mail. That was wonderful. That was pre-COVID though.
Right.
So I would not ask people. I don't even know what the hours are at the airport anymore. It used to be 24 hours, but I rather doubt that now because of all the cutbacks that they've had with the USPS.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Okay. All right. And so thanks for that. So let's move to early voting. And so there are these again, so there's some that don't really aren't comfortable with the absentee ballot process, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. And then there are some that are looking at, of course, because of the pandemic, the tension and all of everything that's going on around this election and everything that's going on, that it could potentially be long lines at their polling sites. So let's talk about early voting. And so can you talk to us about early voting relative to the days, the times? Where would you actually go to vote if you wanted to early vote?
Right now, the only place in the Oklahoma City area to early vote is at the county election board. Now they do have some satellite offices. If there's one in Edmond, and there's talk. The reason I say right now is because there's talk about doing early voting at the what that place where the Thunder plays.
Oh, Chesapeake.
Chesapeake,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
They're talking about that, but I don't think they've worked out the mechanics of it. I do know in Tulsa County, they're voting at the fairgrounds on early voting day. So it still may be that they will have that set up at a place that would be more convenient to social distancing and those type of things. But for right now, you go to the Oklahoma County Election Board, but there is a place in Edmond you can also go to early vote. Early voting is for 2.5 days, the Thursday, Friday. So it would be the Thursday, October 29th, Friday, October 30th, and both of those are from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on Saturday, from 9 to 2, you can also early vote. And again, I'll throw out, people tell me all the time, oh no, we can vote early on Monday. Well, it used to until the Oklahoma legislature took that away from you a couple of years ago. And what do you call that? Voter suppression. There was, for many, many years, we were able to vote on the Monday before Election Day, but they just said it was too much work.
Mm. Got you. Okay. All right. And so again, so early voting is the Thursday, Friday, Saturday preceding the election, as you've stated, and you can only go and vote at the county election board, which of course is in Oklahoma County. It's 4205 North Lincoln Boulevard. Between those hours that you stated, 8 to 6 Thursday, Friday, and 9 to 2 on
Right.
Saturday. And then
Correct.
again, yeah, there is. I recall in Edmond, some church, I think it was a pretty good
Right.
church in Edmond, that was that satellite location for, for those in the northern half of the county. And so definitely want to make sure that that information is out there for those that want to vote early. Okay. And so let's move to couple others, couple conversations. Let's talk. There's been a lot of talking. We're talking about criminal justice reform and all of the topics that surround that and attention that it's been getting. I want to talk about this idea, and there's just this general um, perception that felons cannot vote, right? Or if you've been charged a felony, or haven't been convicted or whatever, anything that's felony related, you cannot vote in any election. So can you talk to this notion of felons and the convictions as it relates to voter eligibility? Because to me, I think that that's another way of voter suppression, right? And even
Correct.
I believe that there's, even if an inmate is serving time, they could still potentially vote as well, right? And so could you talk to us about that?
That's true. First, I'd like to say that felony voting rights are different for every state. Every state has their own take on this. But for the most part, as you say, felony voting is and the restrictions that are placed on it is another form of a subtle but very harmful form of voter suppression. In Oklahoma, basically is if you're not on paper, then you can vote. Meaning, if you get if the judge finds you guilty of a felony for 10 years, you had all 10 years suspended, that suspends your voting rights for 10 years as well, day for day, no good time. Say you received a 10-year sentence and you served two and you were on parole or probation for the 8, you still cannot vote until the end of the 10 years. Or unless you get a pardon. If you get a pardon, you can vote. People that have deferred sentences can vote. People who are in the county jail on a suspicion of a felony, they've been charged with a felony, but they have not been adjudged, they have not been sentenced, those people can vote absentee. If you're in jail and you're in jail for, and you have a previous misdemeanor conviction, still not a felony, you can vote. Now, in the age of COVID, it's going to take a little bit more, especially if you're in the jail trying to vote absentee. You're going to have to make some calls quickly and get all that lined up. But you can vote after you're no longer basically on paper, after your sentence has been, the whole time has taken place.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information, right? And so, I think indirectly that just the whole perception around that, right? It's just another form of voter suppression. And of course, yes, living in this, in these COVID times, if you will, it's going to be, as you say, a whole lot, lot more difficult to facilitate and request, right, those absentee ballots for those that are serving time. But there is an opportunity for them to participate in the democratic process as well. And so for those of you out there who have family members that are serving time, based off of everything that Mrs. Harkins says, if they fall within that, you know, that demographic of eligibility, right? And it's all about
Right.
eligibility. If they fall within that realms and they're eligible, then absolutely, you should be pushing, you know, pushing for them to absolutely participate. All right. And so, last thing I want to talk about, Mrs. Harkins, as we close out, and really appreciated this conversation, is as going back to that voter portal, real quick. And one of the things that you know, some things that maybe our listeners or our viewers in this case may not know is in this portal. Not only can you start the process of registering the vote, request an absentee ballot, check the status of an absentee ballot, verify your voter registration information, as Mrs. Harkins was talking about, that you know, that we did a couple years ago at the church. But you can also view a sample ballot, right? You can actually view what's going to be on the ballot. Of course, now here's the thing: depending on what district you're in, what part of the county you're in, what part of the state you're in, everybody's ballot could be potentially different, right? And so I wanted to share what ballot was for in my precinct, if you will. And so, Jen, if you could, you know, again, as we look at this ballot, there's a lot going on this ballot, right? And so, you
Yes.
know, what everybody really is concentrating on is that right over there to the left is that presidential race. But here's the thing: that's just one race, right? We've got state officers, we've got county officers, we've got districts, and some depending on, you know, what you got: U.S. rep seat, you got a U.S. senator seat. In my specific district, we don't have a state senator or state representative race, but in other districts they do. And so, county sheriff in Oklahoma, county clerk, and then we got some judicial retention, you know, decisions to make as well. So, just on this ballot alone, Mrs. Harkins, can you speak to about, you know, hey, there's a lot going on here, and just to again, you know, about educating and enlightening our viewers on what we have going on with, you know, with the ballot, simple ballot.
Okay, Josh, thank you. As you said, on the left-hand side of the ballot is the presidential election. And most people, you know, that's what they're thinking about this time of, you know, every 4 years is who are we going to elect for president? But the other side of the ballot is what, to me, is the most important. All of those races, to sum it up, one of the things that I always say is that the closer that an elected official lives to you, the more impact that elected official has on your life, and the more impact that you have on that political or elected official. So take, for instance, the county offices, county clerk. We're electing a county clerk. You know, that's basically, in a short term or shorthand, the secretary for the county. They handle all of the administrative type duties, and work some, they kind of coalesce with the county commissioners. The county sheriff, of course, we all know what they do. And I always add now, and what they don't do, they don't administer the jail.
Mhm.
But that is a very important election as well. All the county offices are, and I'll get back to that. Then we also have the county court clerk that's up for election this time. And that is the person that interfaces with court records, and with attorneys when they're filing motions and things like that on your behalf and that type of thing. So very important positions in county government. But to me, their most important position is that by virtue of their office, they are members of what's called the county budget board. And they're the people with the county commissioners that determine how county funds are going to be spent. They're the ones that decided to give the money at first to the jail trust that should have gone to people in the community for COVID relief. So this is very important that you study and determine who will represent your best interest on that county budget board, not taking anything away from their actual positions and the work that they do day to day. But that county budget board is the most important thing that they have because they impact everybody, not just people that are filing to get married, not for people that are filing a court case or people that are interfacing with the sheriff. The county budget board affects everybody in the county all the time. Every time they meet, they're making decisions that will either adversely affect you or add value to your life. And then after those elections, you have the judicial retention ballot. And Oklahoma is one of those states. And again, voter suppression. You don't think about it, but the judicial retention takes a lot of power away from the citizens. The way that judges are appointed, the governor, if I was picking a governor, I would think that would be one of the highest things that I would think about. What kind of judges are they going to put on the bench? Because judges affect me more than the governorship. So we have the retention ballot for all of these Supreme Court and Court of Appeals cases. So what you're doing, if you voted, say, no, you don't want to retain a particular judge, if that were to pass, the majority of people said, no, I don't want this judge. Then what would happen is that the governor would just appoint somebody new. And that's been real shorthand about it because you have the Judicial Commission and they make recommendations, but ultimately it's the governor who makes that decision. So, the way that some people look at it is that they're voting yes because they don't want the governor to have anything more to say about the judges. There are other people that feel differently about that. But one of the things that I do when trying to determine for sure which judges I'm going to support or not support is that I go on the internet and I put in their names and I see, because if they've been involved in some big stuff, chances are there's a newspaper article about it. Then I go to the the Oklahoma Supreme Court Network, and I check them out there. Now, most people don't have the time to go through that type of thing, but those are just some ideas. If you have some time and you want to check, or say at GMO, if they want to assign that to someone to come back and share this information, because we all in the religious community, we are cognizant that we can't endorse candidates, that we can't do this, but we do have what I consider a moral authority to inform our members about issues that's going to affect them personally, issues that's going to affect the church. And that's not campaigning for or against anybody. That is just being good stewards and practicing not only what the golden rule, which we know from an early age, but then we also are practicing the platinum rule, which is that we treat people the way that they should be treated or that they want to be treated. We've got a long way to go on that, but that's another subject.
Right. And so that's one ballot that we have, and of course, depending on where you are, whatever municipality you are, there could be some additional ballots as well, right? And so for me, another ballot that I have is this sample ballot of propositions from the city of Oklahoma City, right? And so there's 9 propositions that are up to essentially amend the charter of the city of Oklahoma City. And so again, as Mrs. Harkins has stated, everybody's looking at the top of that ballot or the far left of the first ballot, but there's a lot going on, downstream, if you will, right?
Right.
That if you're not careful and you're not paying attention to what's going on, you could be potentially either rubber stamping something that could adversely affect you, or essentially voting against something that could actually be of benefit for you. And so, one of the things that I always say, especially in my professional work, as it relates to voting and voter engagement, is there's three, really a three-prong approach, if you will, as it relates to voting. There's voting registration, there's voter education, and then there's voter mobilization, right? And so all of those are very important. But again, we're not at October 9th yet, but as we move closer to the October 9th, and October 9th comes and goes, we're going to be heavily in that voter education piece relative to ensuring that those who are registered to vote have the knowledge that they need. So when they do go to the ballots, that they make, and it's okay for us to say that they make godly decisions, right? They pray, they do the research, and they make godly decisions on whatever it is that they're casting their vote for. So, anything else you wanted to speak about relative to the city propositions, or any other additional propositions or votes, or bonds, or anything that may come out? Of course, again, these are just the ones that I'm eligible for. Of course, you can go, not just Mrs. Harkins, but any of our viewers out there can go, again, to Oklahoma Voter Portal.okelections.us. Simply put in your last name, first name, date of birth, and it'll take you inside the portal to see exactly what you can view your sample ballots and all of those items that we talked about earlier, requesting an absentee ballot, checking on that process and the application as well.
Concerning the Oklahoma City ballot, that really took some of us by surprise, that it was included in the November 3rd ballot, because city elections are usually in December, and which always seemed a little crazy, not very fiscally sound to me, because you had, people voting in November, then you turn around and there's the December ballot.
Mm-hmm.
But because of COVID, the decision was made that instead of having people come back out and vote in December, that it would be incorporated. And that makes sense to me. Most of these 9 are just housekeeping type things. Say, for instance, we always refer to our city elected officials as councilmen. And so now there's one where that will be changed to counselor, or to council person rather than councilman, because we have had several female representatives on the city council. We have 2 very good ones now. But, we've been, the first woman on the city council was in 1967. So I say this is a little slow for sure in coming, but, so they're cleaning up some things. The only one that really caused me some pause when I was reviewing, and I have attended several forums discussing these, and I would say that as far as looking at your ballot, it's a lot of legalese. Again, if you have a computer, then you can go in and just do a search on Oklahoma City Propositions 2020, and you can get some pretty, what I call everyday language that explains these. The only one that gives me pause right now, and I have some calls placed, to find out more is that there's one proposition number 5 that deals with how council people can or cannot report city employees for what they consider or one of their constituents considers bad behavior. So that's a little bit concerning to me, that that labor relations piece. But I will say, and to be totally upfront, I'm a labor union person from way back. So obviously those things are going to jump out to me. And you may not want to listen to what I have to say because my opinion could be construed as being biased. So just check these things out for yourself. And it would, again, I hate to put things on other people's plates, but this would be an excellent opportunity for your churches and community organization, Masonic people, to assign someone, especially with these being so legal sounding, maybe an attorney in your midst, to report back to the body and let them know how are these going to affect you personally.
Right, right. All right. And so again, as we stated, there is the at least in Oklahoma City for sure, in the Oklahoma City area, there's going to be at least 2 ballots, right? There's going to be the ballot with president, U.S. senator, U.S. rep, corporation commission, could be a state senator, could be a state representative. It's going to be some county officers there, kind of county races there, and then of course the judicial retention. And so just looking at that, there's a lot that you need to make sure that you do your research on there. And then you go, of course, and if you're in the Oklahoma City city limits, you've got all of the 9 propositions there. But then again, if you're in a different municipality, Choctaw, the Village, Edmond, Mustang, Yukon, wherever, there could be some additional propositions or decisions that you would have to make there based on where it is that you live. And so again, that's why we want you to go out into that portal, be familiar with the ballot before you get there. Never should the first time you see the ballot be when you sign in at the polling site. That should not be the first time that you see that ballot. You should already have been informed, engaged, and know essentially what where you're leaning and what you're going to support. You go that route. And so, Mrs. Harkins, as we close out, I want to thank you for spending some time with us. Want to give an opportunity for you to bring any closing remarks to our viewers at this time. And so the floor is yours for that.
Okay, I just want to emphasize again that, absentee ballot is the best way, the absolute best way to make sure that your vote gets in on time, and that you are able to vote in a very safe manner. It's just like, I didn't know, like I said, until I got my absentee ballot, or looked at my sample ballot actually, that all of those Oklahoma City propositions were even going to be on the ballot. So that's another plus for absentee voting, not just for this particular election, but going forward, is that you get your ballot in time, that you can actually do that research and determine what it is that you're going to do. Fill out your ballot at your table in the time. Some people, I know it takes them 2 or 3 days to fill out their ballot, because they get to a point and they think, oh, I need to research this, and they go and do that, and they come back to the ballot. But I can't stress enough how important it is that we allow as much time as possible to either vote by mail, to request your absentee ballot. I don't think that I mentioned that in addition to mailing your absentee ballot, which would be safe to put 2 postage stamps on it, instead of doing that, you can actually walk it in to the county election board. Now, I said you. You are the only person that can walk your ballot into the election board. You can't take your sisters, you can't take your mothers, you cannot take anyone's ballot to the election board. There is one little caveat to that I think I need to mention as well. Um, if you find yourself in the hospital um, the weekend before the November 3rd or the week before, and you're not going to, and you know you're going to be in the hospital, and you're of the mind, you're not like dying, you're just you're worrying there, sitting there, laying there, worrying that you're not going to get to vote. You can act, and it's too late to apply for an absentee ballot. There is a provision in the law to where you can contact the election board. They send you the form. There's a form you fill out. There's a form that your doctor fills out. You appoint a person to walk those documents back to the election board. They give that person your ballot. They take it to you in the hospital. That person that you designated as your representative can then walk your ballot into the election board. That's the only time you can take somebody else's ballot to the election board. Otherwise, they're not going to accept it. And if you do it and somehow that gets missed, basically it's against the law for you to take anybody's ballot to the election board, with the exception of what I just said. The other thing too is if you vote a pink ballot saying you're incapacitated, you cannot walk your ballot into the election board. You have to put it in the mail, because they look at it as if you're incapacitated, you haven't got any business up here in the election board. Finally, and Josh, you know I could go on, but finally, if you determine that your best route is to vote early voting on that Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you have the option, especially you won't have any problem at all voting from your car if you have a handicap placard on your car. I have been told, I don't know this to be a fact, but there are people without handicap placards that vote from their car, but it may take some maneuvering to do that. But if you have a handicap placard on your car, you can drive up there, tell them that you want to vote from your car. You don't have to get out. They bring your ballot out to the car and you vote, and they take it back in and run it through the machine. And I just want to say, everybody, please, my favorite author is Alice Walker. She says that the most common way that people give up their power is thinking that they don't have any. Voting is your power. Collectively, we can do great things, but we all have to be the change we seek.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mrs. Harkins, for taking some time out of your very busy schedule. I know it's going to pick up as we get closer to the election date, and so I really appreciate the work that you have been doing and what you are doing and what you're going to continue to do as it relates to just advocating for voters and voting rights. Real quick, as we close out, I want to remind everybody that on October 31st. Great Mount Olive Church will be hosting again our Souls to the Polls. We've been doing this since I think it was 2008 was the first one that we did. And so we've been doing this not only in the presidential or the general elections, we've been doing them for the midterms as well. But we're going to be hosting that Souls to the Polls event on Halloween, right? On Halloween. So October 31st. We're going to gather at the Greater Mount Olive Church. We're going to be outside this year, obviously due to the pandemic, but we're going to have a small rally, small program, and then we are going to proceed westward, west to the county election board west on 42nd, Northeast 42nd Street. We're going to walk across Lincoln Boulevard over to the county election board, where for those that want to cast their votes early, will be able to do that. I always enjoy this event because when you see that group coming over the hill, and those that are waiting in line, and it just always kind of catches them by surprise that you have this mass of people of all, all different backgrounds and creeds that are coming to do one thing and one thing collectively, and that's just to exercise our right to vote. So again, we're going to gather at the Greater Mount Olive Church on Saturday, the morning of Saturday, October 31st. And we look forward to having all of you to join us again. As Ms. Harkins stated, if you have any questions, you can always call the Oklahoma County Election Board. That number is 405-713-1515. Again, 405-713-1515. And of course, the county election board is also located at 4205 North Lincoln Boulevard there. And I'm pretty sure everybody pretty much knows where that is. And so again, on behalf of the Greater Mount Olive Baptist Church Social Justice Ministry, also our pastor, Pastor Ray Douglas, we want to thank you, Mrs. Harkins, for all that you do. Thank you for spending some time with us today. And all of you out there, thank you so much for watching this presentation, and God bless.